Join the channel today to see the full interview and others.
One of the things that I feel like I'm going to kind of switch over from comic, I guess probably can take, it's still within the comic book too, but especially like in movies and television now, I always feel like when they return to like the same well, like Luke Skywalker, Han Solo, most recently with Indiana Jones, these writers that now are getting to do the characters, they want to redo almost the same story that's already been done. So they do what I describe, and what I think Mark Hamill kind of coined best was like they Jake Skywalker the characters. So they turn them into these kind of like depressed loser people that they would never have become. You would never see them doing that in order so they can have these like character growth moments, so they can become back to the hallowed hero you once remembered. What do you make of that kind of storytelling that I feel like has just kind of become everywhere now?
Well, it's a lot of unimaginative Joseph Campbell crap. I mean, movies have been going downhill ever since film producers discovered Joseph Campbell and their understanding of Campbell's stuff. You know, Hero with a Thousand Faces and things like that. Their understanding is there's a formula. That's what they took away from that. And there's a way to tell stories and there's a way not to. And so if you notice, like every hero in every story now is reluctant at first because that's the model. And then you devolve them and have them return to their former greatness. That's the model. And it's just tedious and tired. You know, we watched Clint Eastwood movies and John Wayne movies, and he'd be the same guy at the end of the movie as he was at the beginning. Yeah. You know, we didn't need to learn anything about him. You saw how he reacted to the initial situation in the movie, and we knew everything we needed to know about him. Now we can enjoy the story.
Yeah, that's one of the things that I like really frustrates me is that they want to have like when they're talking like character growth, they want it to be some kind of like the character actually has to like go through some kind of like massive like moral change where he's instead of like he's just being confronted with maybe like a new challenge or a superior villain or something like that, where he actually has to like overcome this guy doing all of these like evil things, but he still is like the same dude that he is. He still has those like same core principles, and that I think is like kind of what really frustrates me with a lot of the modern storytelling. How do you address that? And like obviously I know you don't kind of buy into that, but
well, you know, a lot of the like post 2000 when you started pitching to editors, and these were the new breed of editors, their first questions were, well, what does the character learn over the course of the story?
Yeah.
And what's the theme of the story? And I'm like, well, the theme I leave up to the reader. I don't write themes into my stories. They can hunt for them and find them, I guess. And the character, you know, he learns that he really doesn't like the guy he's after. Yeah. And he learns that he feels better once he's gotten the guy he's after. You know, it's like that simple. If you want to look for something deeper in it, some psychoanalysis, you're welcome to do that. But I write escapist fiction, and you know, I see this more and more. I mean, half the stuff you see on streaming has exactly the same plot. It's a cop, it's a reporter, it's a doctor, and he leaves his job in the big city to go back to his small hometown where he uncovers the dark mysteries and secrets that he never knew were there before. I mean, that's half of Netflix.
Yeah.
it's
a
true. Little tired.
Yeah. Okay, so I got some questions here that I do have actually listed out. And so I guess I just wanted to like, what do you think that this will ever like this type of storytelling is going to change, because we are seeing a lot of these films kind of fail at the box office. We just saw The Flash just now hit over 100 million in its third week, which is just abysmal. Shazam did absolutely awful. Indiana Jones did really bad too. I mean, Shazam only did 132.2 million total in this entire run domestically. So I was just wondering, like, do you think that there's a point where they're seeing this stuff and it's like, hey, it's not working. Our formula that we've been following isn't working anymore, and we need to try something different.
Yeah, they're trying to turn it around. I mean, every major film studio is tens of billions of dollars in debt. I was just reading the other day that the guy from Discovery Channel who took over Warner's was able to shave $9 billion off their debt, their $85 billion debt. Disney's even deeper in debt. Paramount, all these companies, while they have some successful stuff, everything else is failing. And they didn't realize, I mean, the writing was on the wall that the superhero comic book based big CGI extravaganza, its day was coming to an end. And they didn't see it in time. And now they're having to write down movies, just not release them at all and take them as a loss. They're forced to do these things by economics. The other thing they're forced to do by economics is return to the kind of movies people actually want to see. And because they don't have the money anymore, they're relying on like mid-budget action films with reliable stars. And you can see them, they're on every slate. And then more horror movies being produced now than ever before by the major studios. I mean, ever in the history of cinema, because they're reliable money makers that don't cost so much to make. They really got to get cash in, so they got to start thinking about the audience again, instead of tisking us when we don't like their output.
Yeah, I think you're right on that. I kind of agree with you. I mean, there's, like you said, there's example Extraction 2 on Netflix, then Insidious, The Red Door just made, I was reading $5 million on its Thursday preview, which is just, it's kind of close to what Indiana Jones made.
Yeah.
So yeah, there you go. And the Blumhouse guy has made like a fortune off of like $10 million production budgets that are having like $80 million opening weekends.
Yeah, there's a mathematics to horror films. I mean, if you can keep the money low, even if it's a bad movie, even if it's not that great a movie, if the money's low enough, it'll make money. And then the higher the quality, you can spend a little bit more, but you don't want to spend a lot because you want that big return. And you don't need big stars for a horror movie. In fact, unknowns are better for a horror movie.
Yeah,
people just starting out. So yeah, I mean, the reality has regained its throne in Hollywood, and they're starting to actually realize, we really went in way too deep on the woke and way too deep on the sort of witless CGI popcorn movies.
So
we left all sanity behind. I mean, all of these things, the Marvel movies, the DC movies, Fast and Furious movies, they all just got worse over time, and audiences don't want to see bad movies.
Yeah, I think there's something onto that too, but it looks like DC is actually doubling down on the superhero stuff. So obviously they just announced their whole like Gunverse DC universe, like mainstream DC universe. But then there's also now they're talking about doing a Matt Reeves Batverse alongside of it. So it looks like they're gonna have like two like universes potentially going at the same time. And you're over here saying like the time of the superhero is over. What do you make of this move here? By DC to kind of do like have them both going at the same time?
I see a debacle where they realize they've got to shave this down. Gunn has this slate of pictures that I doubt half of them will ever see the light of day, because they've got to look at them and go, they're not testing well, they're not doing well. That's the problem when a trend ends. Trends end very quickly, and you've got to be able to see it ending. And sometimes they end overnight. And then the studios are trapped with all of these movies. They're they're leading up to releasing that are part of that trend, and realize that none of these are going to bring back the money. So then on all of these movies, I mean, Batwoman is one of them, or Batgirl, or whatever it was. They look at it and they go, marketing this movie is throwing away another $100 million. So let's just write it down. I see a lot more of that happening.
Yeah, I mean, we saw that with Disney as well. They're taking like almost like $2 billion write-off because the stuff that they actually made and put on Disney Plus they're saying is worth like nothing now.
Well, I mean, you can't underestimate the idiocy out there. I mean, they just keep trying the same thing over and over again. It's like, Paramount is deeply, deeply in debt, even though they have highly successful stuff on their streaming service that's all Taylor Sheridan product.
Right.
So instead of finding another Taylor Sheridan, which is what I would be doing, I'd be beating the bushes for another Taylor Sheridan. They give George Clooney a production deal. Well, has George Clooney ever produced anything that made money? No. But, so things like that don't make any sense. And then they're going to do like a Dexter prequel. I mean,
yeah.
It's like, but that's the stuff you do that's failing. Look at the new stuff that Sheridan's doing. Apparently he's got the touch. Apparently understands what his audience wants. And don't do more stuff like that, but find someone else in other genres. I mean, find the romantic comedy Taylor Sheridan and put them to work.
Yeah, I do. I feel like that's one of the genres that is kind of lacking nowadays. It's like you don't really see any kind of like romantic comedies at all anymore. They're almost like non-existent.
They don't know how to do them. They don't know how to do them. I mean, there's a way. I mean, there is a formula to romantic comedy, and you can play with it, but there's rules you got to follow. Just like there's rules in comedy and horror, there's definite rules in romantic comedies, and you don't see any anymore that you can get engaged with or that are actually funny.
Do you think a lot of that has to do with the ideology of the people making this stuff, that they can't follow the rules because their ideology keeps them from that, or what? Yeah, why do you think they can't make that movies?
Yeah, they have goals for the movie that don't have anything to do with being entertaining. I mean, I see, I'll watch some romantic comedies made for the streaming services with my wife because I like a good romantic comedy. I'm a big Preston Sturges fan, Frank Capra fan, and I'll watch them and I go, well, I don't like either of these people, so why do I care if they fall in love or not?
Right.
And then they just have them fall in love with no rhyme or reason. They didn't earn it. And then there's no complications following that. It's like you don't even understand how this works. I mean, you look at a movie like Groundhog Day, it's a romantic comedy, and it follows all the rules. Bill Murray has to change in order to earn Andie MacDowell's love, and by the end of the film, he does that. And that's the same for all of them. There's pitfalls and complications and mistakes made, and it's all built around humor and embarrassment and comedy of manners. And they just don't seem to know how to do that anymore. They just throw in a bunch of like awkward, embarrassing jokes to make you feel you're laughing at your own discomfort at what they're showing you, and that's what passes for comedy now.
Okay. Or it's you'll have like they try, especially within like the Marvel stuff, like Taika Waititi or like a James Gunn type film. It's a very serious moment, and then they cut it off at its knees with some kind of ridiculous, like I don't know what's the word I'm looking for, like a gutter joke, and it just, I mean, to me, it just cuts the whole dramatic tension that you had been building there off, and it's like, why are we laughing at this? This isn't funny.
Yeah, well, I mean, my buddy Graham Nolan says the best examples he's ever seen of that, and I agree with him, is in the first Doctor Strange movie when he first puts on the cloak and he's posing in front of a mirror, see how he looks. And of course, it's this great moment. He's Doctor Strange. And for comic fans, it's like, oh man, this is great. And then the collar of his cape slaps him in the face just for a cheap laugh.
Yeah,
it completely ruins the moment, and sort of, like you say, it cuts the knees out from under the character.
Click below to become a member today so you can have access to this full interview and others.